broke in.
The chairs are awesome.
No, we'll get it. I have one. I think I might even have by the end of this week.
Good for you. Congratulations.
I'm excited.
That's quite a milestone.
Yeah, maybe talk 4 minutes or something.
Good for you. That's for all the branches and chiefs.
For all the branches and the people.
Your branches are something like that.
I only have me. I love my one store. I just have one. It's just
Yeah, that's, and that's.
so glad I don't. No.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is 5:30, so we'll go ahead and hold this meeting in order. We'll begin with invitation by Pastor Brent Farmer of Valley Christian Church.
I'm going to shoot a quick bullet. I like Christmas, and I like Christmas nativities. There's a character I've never seen a nativity, and it's a dragon, which it belongs in the Christmas story. We have the wise men; they shouldn't be there, but the dragon, Revelation 12, is the fact that evil was there as well as good. And so Christmas reminds me of the good, but also reminds me of the battle that we have to face, that you guys have to face. So I'm praying for appropriate urgency, that you guys would be urgent about the appropriate areas, and the ones that aren't urgent, let them go. Father, give these men and women who serve our city, our area, the leaders, that the decisions they make breaks the way for our part of the state. Father, give them the clarity as they struggle between what's wrong and right, and to be urgent about the right areas. Yeah, Father, that they would make a difference for our families and our businesses, for our homes. Father, we're grateful for how they serve. They don't get paid much. They do it because they want to. And we're grateful for that. And we just ask that you give them wisdom in these areas. And in the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nisley?
Here.
Beckinsale?
Here.
Peterson?
Here.
Lucas?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Harmon? Reeser?
Here.
Austin?
Here. Okay, a current copy of the Open Meetings Act of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of council chambers. Consent agenda, all matters under consent agenda are considered by city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. So we'll go ahead and get started. Item number 1 is approved minutes of work session on December 2nd and regular meeting on December 3rd of 2019. Item number 2, approve application by Fraternal Order of Eagles 2839 for a special designated license on March 27th, 2020 from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. on March 28th, 2020 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and March 29th, 2020 from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the D&N Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for the Eagle State Pool Tournament.
Move to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent agenda.
Wrong end. And that motion passes. All right, regular agenda. Item number 3. This is the second reading to adopt ordinance number 4020, amending 130.040, 130.041, and 130.042 of the code ordinances of the city of North Platte to provide for the regulation of electronic nicotine delivery systems and alternative nicotine products. Yes, please.
An ordinance of the city of North Platte, County, Nebraska, amending city municipal code sections 130.040, 130.041 and 130.042 relating to the regulation of tobacco to include electronic nicotine delivery systems and alternative nicotine products in said code sections. To require sales service training prior to selling or furnishing electronic nicotine delivery systems and or alternative nicotine products. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof as required by law.
Move that we adopt ordinance number 4020, amending section 130.040, 130.041, and 130.042 of the city of Code of Ordinances of the City of North Platte to provide for the regulation of electronic nicotine delivery systems and alternative nicotine products on second reading.
Second.
And that motion passes.
Just a quick question, if I may. I guess the House of Representatives and national wise going to 21. Well, we just do change it at that point in time, or what would we do as a city?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, but when it comes,
Yeah, we'll look into it. I just found that out myself. It's in the budget bill apparently.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at it.
okay, no big deal.
This is just second reading.
Thank you. Item number 4, third reading to adopt ordinance number 4016, adding Title 11, Chapter 118 to the Municipal Code of City of North Platte, relating to the regulation of cable television systems, cable television franchise, use of city right-of-way by cable television providers, and repealing current cable ordinance number 2879.
An ordinance of the City of North Platte, Lake County, Nebraska, amending the municipal code of the City of North Platte by adding Title 11, Chapter 118, regulating cable television systems, cable television franchises, use of the city right-of-way by cable television providers, repealing prior ordinances inconsistent with this ordinance, providing an effective date and for publication in pamphlet form.
Move that we adopt ordinance number 4016, adding Title 11, Chapter 118 to the Municipal Code of the City of North Platte relating to the regulation of cable television systems, cable television franchises, use of city right-of-way by cable television providers, and replacing current cable ordinance number 2879 on final reading.
Second.
Did I miss you? Did you say on second reading?
Final.
Thank you.
And that motion passes. Item number 5, action on ordinance number 4024, amending section 94.020 of the municipal code of the City of North Platte to adopt International Fire Code 2018 edition. Yes, please.
An ordinance of the City of North Platte, Lake County, Nebraska, amending sections 94.020 of the municipal code of the city relating to the adoption of the 2018 edition of the International Fire Code, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Move that we suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings on ordinance number 4024.
Second.
I'd like to visit a little bit about that, maybe have some questions if that's the case. Sure. I don't know what the appropriate time is, but I was hoping we could get an overview of the changes. And I've done some research on my own on the changes, but it's hard to understand. So would that be
Sure.
Would that be
George,
okay?
can you help us out?
I'm George Lewis, City Fire Marshal. What, the code, I got a copy of your questions, and the domestic appliances and the fire extinguisher system, that the care centers are governed by the State Fire Marshal's Office and the feds. So they restrict what can go in that, so that, would be up to what they wanted. So, and then the retrofit of sprinkler systems would be in a situation, for instance, like the Shooters bar used to be out on East 4th, all electric bought it. Then they moved in, if they were to move out and somebody bought it and was gonna put another bar in, then it would have to have a sprinkler system if the occupant load was over 300.
So for example, if, let's take the bowling alley as an example of property, what would trigger that requirement of having to install sprinklers at that?
Well, the bowling alley right now is sprinklered.
Okay.
So,
Is-
and the majority of the facilities in North Platte, the bars that are over 300 are sprinklered.
Okay.
So, and then, like I said, if they were to expand, add on or whatever, and the occupant level went over 300, then they'd have to put a sprinkler system in.
Okay, so if, would a change of ownership trigger?
No,
that?
no, if they kept it the same occupancy as a bar, no, it would not.
Okay, so if somebody made some type of material remodel that altered the use or occupancy of the property, that would.
Right,
trigger-
and if it went, well, for instance, if it went to a business, then a sprinkler system would be required.
Okay,
So it's just the places of assembly, because of the history of assembly places, we've had so many fire deaths. That's why that sprinkler system kicks in.
okay. And that particular requirement was specific to places that serve alcohol, is that right?
Right, well, or places of assembly
Okay.
in general.
Okay.
If they go over 300, then it has to be sprinklered.
Okay. But if you're not changing what you're doing today,
No.
you're grandfathered in that sense?
No.
Okay.
And in the past, since I've been in this position, I've always worked with people. You know, I'll write something up and I'll say, you know, we can work at it. And eventually, for instance, like the Buffalo Bill Manor, it is now in the process of sprinkling it, and I've been working with them for 6 years to get that done. So, and it just worked out right now for them, the sprinkler, because they're doing a bunch of remodeling. So, it's not like, you know, we go in there and force them to do it right now.
Okay.
We understand that it could be detrimental to them, so we work with it.
I know also I was concerned about the tent and temporary structures. Could you walk through what the changes?
Yeah,
would
that,
be?
that is, basically been the same since the edition that I've had. And also, I hadn't had much dealings with them. For instance, the Cattleman's Ball, they usually have a huge tent. And if they're over 300, then they gotta provide a means of extinguishing system or something to that effect, you know, to protect those people. But if they enclose it, you know, with the sides or whatever, then that really kicks in. But if it's open to where people can get out a lot quicker, then you're fine.
Would that make changes today for, I know, different events that we have in town that use the big tents, whether that be the brewery or Nebraska Land Days or the fair or any of those, do you see it changing anything they're doing today?
No, I don't. I don't foresee that, no. Okay,
Thank you, George.
you bet.
I'll just express I don't have any concerns with modern, can I ask one other question? George, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Is there any reason for urgency in this change? I know it was recommended to be passed with
No.
faster processes.
I don't, no,
Okay, there's no specific issue with the state
No.
compliance or anything?
no. So I just wanted to adopt it so I'm in sync with the building department.
I'm just here, I don't necessarily have a problem with modernization of the code. I really feel like our local businesses need the multiple readings to have time to look at this. And there's a lot of changes from what I can see. We just touched on a few that I was particularly concerned about. But I just like to make sure our citizens and our business owners have some time to look at this, and if they have any issues to get those on the table. So I'm not in favor of the suspension.
No, the motion right now is to suspend.
Proposed motion passes. Needs 2/3.
Oh, I'm sorry. It fails. Okay, so
Now motion to adopt ordinance number 4021, amending section 94.020 of the municipal code of the city of North Platte to adopt the International Fire Code 2018 edition on first reading.
And that Motion passes. All right, moving on to item number 6. Excuse me. Action on ordinance number 4022 to create street improvement district number 329 in Lakeview Boulevard from the intersection of West A Street to the intersection of West Front Street in the city of North Platte, Lake County, Nebraska. Chris, please.
An ordinance creating street improvement district number 329 in the city of North Platte, Lake County, Nebraska, and describing the various streets in said street improvement district and improvements to be constructed therein.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 4022 to create street improvement district number 329 in Lakeview Boulevard from the intersection of West A Street to the intersection of West Front Street in the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska.
Second.
I'd like to make some comments if I could, Mr. Mayor. Everything that I've read, and I believe this ordinance, proposed ordinance even talks about foot traffic. I guess that's probably not how it's termed or worded here, but and I think maybe what's driving this, correct me if I'm wrong, is the concern about the students that are having to walk along Lakeview Avenue to get to Eisenhower School. And it's my understanding today, after talking to some of our local real estate people, that 63 acres is under contract to be purchased, which would then probably be developed into some type of a development. I think standard practice is that that development's going to have streets and curbs and gutters and sidewalks in it once that's constructed. And so it would seem to me that maybe we're getting the cart ahead of the horse here a little bit. If in fact that 63 acres is going to be developed, and that's kind of what was proposed to us here a few months ago, the developer is going to have to put in those streets and sidewalks and curbs and gutters, and those curbs and gutters and sidewalks should facilitate the movement of those school children from north to south to Eisenhower School without the city having to spend any money, at least at this point, to put in the sidewalk. And I guess one of my concerns about it is the electric department, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think has allocated $300,000 to relocate a power line. I think there may be some less costly solutions to this problem than redeveloping the street right now and relocating the power line. I would like us to look at some different options. The first option being, of course, if the project is going to go through, then that developer is going to be required to put in sidewalks, curbs and gutters and streets. And like I said, that would facilitate the movement, the safe movement of the students from their homes over to the school, and then vice versa back home from the school. Or another option that may make some sense in my mind would be to, I believe there's an easement on where the power line currently runs, and I think Jimmy told me that the poles are 7 feet from the edge of that easement. As maybe a less expensive option would be to get the developer to give us some additional right-of-way that the city could construct a sidewalk north and south on the east side of the power poles that would certainly be off of the traffic of Lakeview, but would again give the children an opportunity to walk in a safe area that would be not exposed to vehicular traffic. Another thing I think that Ty, I don't know if you're going to mention this, but maybe the Trails Committee was wanting to look at some options as far as tying it into the Trails Network.
Yeah, I mean, I have been contacted by a member of the Trails Committee who I encouraged to visit with Jim, that they would see that area as an ideal area for trails and would like input on an ability to put a wider trail in there, similar to what's on Buffalo. And I told them, I said, talk to the city, but I said, I also suspect we're going to see a redevelopment plan request for this area at the same time, and those things should be thought about as part of a redevelopment plan if our city desires to have wider trails there. It's absolutely. And I'm glad that they're looking at that because it does seem like a logical place to have a wider trail type.
And that has been part of the discussion from the very get-go, that we would have the wider sidewalk like we do along the south side of A Street. You know, the A Street was built under the old federal aid program, and so the city put all that in, put the trails in or whatever, but that is part of the discussion there. But one of the reasons why, in my opinion, we need to move that power line is because if you line that up and you go out and that behind those poles, then you're gonna be going right over the top of that old ditch. And, you know, while this project will allow us to eliminate that ditch, again, it's been part of the project. In fact, I visited with the owner on the west side and have negotiated with him to donate the additional right-of-way that would take to facilitate that moving to the west side of the road. I know too that Scott's back here, and, you know, at some point that line's gonna have to be rebuilt anyway, but.
Part of my thought there too is the development, obviously, nothing has done yet, so at this point, it would be easy to design the development around some type of a walkway, whether it's straight north and south or meandering path or a trail. I mean, those could all be accommodated by the developer at this stage of the game. The other thing that I was looking at too is a $300,000 expenditure with the loss of some of our key people. We're going to have to spend some more money to replace Mr. Hawks for one. I think we're going to have to probably replace Jim with more than one person. And so if we could save that $300,000 to be used to hire the people to replace Jim and maybe wear some of the hats that he's currently wearing right now, I guess I would propose that rather than moving the power line at this point, we just continue to maintain it as a normal maintenance procedure. And then if for some reason this property doesn't get developed, we can always relocate the power line. But in the event it isn't developed, I would much rather see us try to work with the owner to get additional easement property to construct a public way, a sidewalk right alongside the power poles. And that would accommodate, I think, really what we're trying to do. I've never heard any discussion about vehicle traffic being a problem. It's always been foot traffic that's been the concern.
Yeah, the other thing that I would remind you of, Ed, in what you're saying is that it would be our plan as this ordinance is prepared, that we would go all the way to Front Street, you know, because not only do we have children perhaps in this new development, but we also have a lot of children that coming out of those apartments and duplexes and homes that would be north of this proposed development. And again, you know, if the trails wants to participate in it or whatever, that's fine. But it would be my thought that we would take that clear up to Front Street. And so that would not be a part of this project.
Can I just ask a question? Is the funding for the moving of the line, the power line, going to come from the municipal electric or from the general budget?
No, it would come from the municipal light and water budget and electric department, which was shown in the budget that was approved by the council here.
All right, so it's not going to come from the general budget. Okay.
Another question, is there anybody here that is gonna create that development out there, and what do they have to say about it?
I don't see anybody here representing the developer this evening, but again, you know, what we're proposing tonight and what we're discussing here is what we have been visiting with them all along on that development out there at the location.
Andrew? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, okay. I just had a question. Tom, have you guys cored that road on Lakeview there? I mean, to me, that road, I've driven it, 100 times, and it's a really old road, and my guess is the subcondition on it's not very good in the first place, right?
Well, to answer your question directly, I'm Tom Warblow, the city engineer. We have not cored that road, but we know that it's an old county road and it's been overlaid, I think, once or maybe armor coated. So it's not, what we would consider to be a high traffic road for heavy trucks and that sort of thing. But, I mean, it's functioning, obviously, so.
I'm just kind of curious on what the life expectancy condition on that road is.
Well, it'd be like any asphalt street that's generally hasn't been built to our standards. I mean, it's going to be adequate for the near future, and then I suppose 4 or 5 years, it could easily start to fall apart. There is another thing that enters in here too, is drainage, but we have some drainage issues to the west of Lakeview, and this project was intended to help address some of that as well. So
We're talking about the northwest part of that section, the field.
yes, that part of that, and then some of the other property owners in there have expressed concern about drainage.
So how are you, is it just gonna be because of the layout, so it'll flow differently, or?
Yeah, we'll
or like the
address
storm
that.
sewer in there,
We
or
would,
what?
we would address that as that was being designed. That would be the goal.
Okay.
Try to take care of those.
Okay, that was my main question on that part. I mean, the only other thing I really have to say on it is that this is probably one of the spots I probably get most of the complaints about out there is just from parents, on the traveling of sidewalks and kids going from Eisenhower back and forth and stuff like that on the vehicles. And, it's a really narrow road, and so they have to jump down there. I've seen runners that, hop down into the ditch, that way they don't get, hit by a car, you know what I mean? It's not real wide. There's not much leeway for vehicles, unfortunately. If you have two passing and you're the pedestrian, you're going into the grass. So pretty quick.
It's pretty narrow.
That would be my concern is, it's not so much the development of Lakeview is there are that apartment complex and they're building new houses that on Second Street and those kids are have to go down Dixie to Eisenhower or go down Lakeview. And I think it's probably as much as for the school kids coming out of there, because I don't think they're not gonna run distance-wise, they're gonna take the shortest distance, and Dixie may not work. They have problems with Dixie anyway.
Right.
I think there's probably a need to do this other than no matter what happens on Lakeview. I want my opinion for the safety of the kids, and that's just my opinion.
A question I have real quickly on it is I agree with the concern about the safety for the kids, and we've had a lot of house building there on the West Second area. But the developer who owns the property is gonna have a tremendous gain in cost reduction with this occurring, which will ultimately help develop that land. But by approving this, do we hamstring our ability to assess them or charge them for a portion of the sidewalk on their property, or some of the cost reduction they're gonna get in their development? Or I'm sure they're gonna come forward with a TIF application. Do we have the ability to capture part of that TIF? I guess what I'm getting at is the developer that owns the ground at the quadrant there is gonna get a free sidewalk and ditch work out of the deal if we can pay for it all. And the complaint I hear from people periodically is, I'm all for development and I'm all for TIF, but what I don't like are these extra expenses the city incurs on the adjacent infrastructure. And so I'm just wondering, I think the safety issue needs addressed, but I'm wondering what's our ability to charge them back for any fair portion of that?
And I think you run into a couple of issues there, Ty, and the first one is that that's already a hard surface road. So in my opinion, it would be no different than on Dixie. And if we were to go in there and do something on there, I'm not sure that we could go back and assess that cost back to the owner, since it's already hard surface. And so I think you run into a couple of different issues there. The other thing that you state, which is true, is that we haven't seen their plan yet. So we're not exactly sure how they're gonna tie into this, and we wouldn't be able to establish, permanent grades and even do some of our design work without seeing a little more detail on what it is that they're gonna do in there. But again, I would suggest to the council that much as West A Street was done, that we moved the power line to the other side, which I've talked to that owner, got that all worked out, and again, negotiated him donating the additional right of way, and putting that sidewalk in over on the east side where we have all that housing development that would really go beyond just the piece of ground that we're looking at. This will also allow us to do away with all those ditches, which is also a complaint that we hear about in that area all the time, either the weeds or the mosquitoes or whatever it is. So it would also allow us to do that, and I have visited with the ditch company about what we would need to do there, and that comes back to what Tom had mentioned earlier, about putting in storm sewer out there so that we can handle some of that tailwater and do away with all those ditches and really kind of clean up the whole area.
Jim or Mayor, whoever, that was my reason for asking, is there somebody out here that's, with that development project, will that hinder what they wanna do, or will it make it too expensive for what they wanna do? And the other question I have, and probably for Scott, if you're gonna do that now and you're estimating 300,000, it's been suggested it be put back, and if we waited to do it in 2 years, what's it gonna cost?
Scott Standage, Electric Superintendent. That's a good question, Glenn, because what we usually do is we try to order our material, in advance, because it takes a while to get it here, which we have started to get some of that material ordered, so, and there's no problem with storing it, but I can't tell you how much higher it'll be in 2 years than it'll be now, and everything goes up.
So that was kind of my question, because just like that sewer line we put in out south, yes, it was expensive to put it in today, but if we wait 3 or 4 years, it'll probably at least go half again as much. So sometimes it's not prudent to put these things off when we're gonna do it sooner or later.
Random thought, question, Scott, sorry. I was trying to grab you before you sat down. What's the cost difference on burying those power lines versus putting them on poles? The reason I ask is because, we have some other poles that have had issues here recently.
Right.
And we had that one that fell over, so.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between burying them, especially that line, that is a transmission line. And for us to bury that, it's probably close to maybe $20 a foot.
Okay.
To bury that, and of course, then you have to put 3 separate pipes in for that too, with the transmission line. But it's astronomical.
I just didn't know if it was possible to look at burying some of those.
Oh, it's possible.
I mean, but not economically possible, feasible.
Yeah, it's not feasible with it being overhead or anything to go ahead and bury it then. It'd cost a lot of money.
Thanks.
Jim, what do you anticipate the cost of the project to be, including the electrical, streets, the closing the ditches, and everything associated with this?
It's a half mile of street, and if I remember correctly, Tom and I worked on some estimates on there. If you throw the power line in or whatever, I would guess it's gonna be in the neighborhood of a couple $1 million.
Do you know approximately what portion of that the sidewalk portion would be?
I don't know that offhand, Tom. Do you know what an 8-foot sidewalk there for a half mile would be?
Probably 100K for that whole thing, for the whole length.
All the way up and down like you.
If I recall, Tom, didn't we have some discussion on this before about maybe just doing the sidewalk? But then when time came to do the road, that sidewalk would have to be destroyed and redone?
Yeah, what you would do, of course, you try to design it to accommodate the sidewalk that you plan to do in the future, however, or the road that you plan to do in the future for the sidewalk that you build, but if we're requiring additional right of way on one side, it will change how we look at the design, so I wouldn't wanna, if we're gonna move the power lines today, I wouldn't wanna spend the money to build a sidewalk and then have to tear into that sidewalk at the same time removing the power lines in a future day.
this might be a little off base, but you know, Lakeview from Phillip to A Street, we have that nice median, and for some reason, those poles weren't changed. Excuse me. Do we maintain that lawn there, that?
Yes, we do. And there's a long story behind that too, but the reason that we didn't do that is because we didn't have to move them, and we were going to move them through that area.
In my understanding, Hoppy used to maintain it. A homeowners association used to maintain that area.
That was part of the agreement as far as maintaining the islands. The power line, of course, has always been ours.
I'm just visualizing if this is something we would consider to do and not move those, we would have another boulevard going through there.
Yeah, we could have, and Tom and I have already looked at that too, and probably end up with a situation like we had down there on Lakeview at the Phillip interchange, where we would transition back into a typical urban section going north.
So where are we at right now?
We're gonna vote out there, right?
We're voting on the first reading to approve or not approve the street improvement.
So we're voting on the first.
To approve it.
Is there an opportunity to offer a motion to table at this point, or would that be later?
No, this would be the time.
I would,
What purpose would it be to table this? What more information would you need in the future?
well, I guess why,
I've heard a lot of questions tonight. I think most of them have been answered, if I'm not mistaken.
You're turning your mic off.
I'm sorry. Hold down the bar and send it in. Well, the only reason I guess I would propose to table it is we've got a development coming here that we don't know how that's all gonna fall into place, and it would seem like that if the development does fall in place, we may have an opportunity to not have to incur the cost of moving the power line, which would save the city, $300,000. And I guess that's my reason for asking a consideration of tabling until we at least know what this development's gonna do to us.
Yeah, if I might.
Sure, please.
The only thing I would say to that, Ed, is that, the developer is, waiting, I guess, if you will, for us to make a decision to do out there. If, we come along, because again, the power line thing would be funded through a different mechanism than the roadway. It doesn't necessarily mean that if some other design or some other method was come up with, that would have to be a part of the roadway design, because it is, in my opinion, a separate project from the roadway.
So you're saying that if we approve the roadway, that we wouldn't necessarily be approving the relocation of the power line?
That could be possible, but I don't want to sit here and mislead anybody. We don't know that at this point, but that could be possible.
And I feel like your thought is fair, because I'd like to see what the TIF request looks like, and which I expect we're gonna have one on this because it is in a redevelopment area. And I'd like to know what, that which is tax abatement. I'd like to know what that whole package looks like and what we're gonna do. The challenging part is that we have the issue with, we need a sidewalk for those kids. And so, that's where, to me, the challenging part of this discussion is.
Again, if I might, the other challenging thing to this is that we need to create the ordinance so that we can move forward with doing the survey work, the engineering work, and be in a position so that when all this other stuff happens with that developer, that we're not out there having him wait on us. So again, by creating the district, we've put ourselves in a position where we can at least be ready when he's ready to pull the trigger on the development.
Can we authorize the pre-construction work, the surveying and the design, in anticipation of construction, and not authorize construction until we know what's gonna take place with the development?
Well, I would suggest to you that you will get that opportunity, because when we get ready to bid this thing out, it will have to come back to the council to accept those bids.
Now, are we on a motion to table now? Again, do we do a second on it?
No,
No second? Okay.
I guess, again, the only thing I worry about is, and I worry about this on a lot of projects, that we don't put ourselves in a position where we have a developer who's out there ready to move on something and they're waiting on us.
And we would still have a say-so on any redevelopment contracts along with any contracts for the project.
Exactly, Ty, all of that would still have to come in front of the council.
So we would vote yes for this one right now.
Well, if that's your pleasure, yeah, to move forward with it.
I guess
Yes,
on the
we-
table is the motion to
approve on the first reading.
I'll call the question.
Just so we understand what we're voting on, it's to call the question is a motion to end debate, and there's no second, so that dies. You're voting on the first reading of the ordinance.
Thank you. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Good questions. All right, item number 7, action on ordinance number 4023 to create water connection district number 21 in East 16th Street from the east right-of-way line of Bryan Avenue to the west right-of-way of Taft Avenue in the city of North Platte, County, Nebraska. Yes, please.
An ordinance creating water connection district number 21 within the corporate limits of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska. Establishing the outer boundaries of the district, designating the size, location, and terminal points, and referring to plans and specifications and estimates of the city engineer in connection therewith on file with the city clerk.
Move that we would suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings on ordinance number 4023.
Second.
And that motion passes.
I now move that we would adopt ordinance number 4023 to create water connection district number 21 in East 16th Street from the east right-of-way line of Bryan Avenue to the west right-of-way of Taft Avenue in the city of North Platte, County, Nebraska.
Second. This one's a little different in that this will require 6 votes to carry.
If I may, Jim, just out of curiosity, how many more streets out there are? Is this the end, the last section? Or is there gonna be down the road, will we see more?
Asking for
Extensions.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, it's one of those deals that there's, if somebody requests it, we have an obligation to provide it when it comes to water and sewer. It's much different than it is with paving, where there's a right hand monsters fund, there is none.
So there's probably a lot more. Once they
There-
see
there are a
this
lot of
happening, we might
places.
see more.
Well, there is, but over the years, you know, we've done these things to provide service to those areas that are kind of on the outside, or outer edge, I guess, if you will, of the community. And in this particular case, you know, there is an individual who is petitioning for it, but it also allows us to tie in a couple of dead ends up there too.
Okay. Item number 9 is election of council president for 2028. Oh, sorry, I skipped one. We'll move back to item number 8. That would be an adoption resolution approving claim and authorize the issuance of warrants with Paulson Inc. in the amount of $117,957.42 to pay approved claim and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing passed and approved on May 21st of 2013.
Move to adopt resolution approving claim and authorizing the issuance of a warrant to Paulson Inc. in the amount of $117,957.42 the pay approved claim and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing passed and approved on May 21st, 2013.
Second.
And that passes as well. All right, now, number 9 is election of council president for the year of 2020.
I'd like to nominate Jim Nisley.
I'll second that.
No discussion?
You got up and ran off.
I ran out the room yet.
I got a hold of it.
No, thank you, it's an honor. Thank you for considering me. I'm not gonna vote on that because I'm a candidate. I'll abstain.
And that motion passes as well. Thank you, Jim, for that. And item number 10 is claims.
Pay the claim.
Second.
If you don't.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you.
We have.
Can I get your last name?
What